All right, hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Trading Bitcoin with oh shit, we're not trading Bitcoin. I'm like distracted by the banking. We are Bitcoin briefed with Jimmy Song and Grass-Fed Bitcoin on Twitter, Bitcoin Mechanic, Lex. Hey guys, how you doing today? I'll be muting myself a lot due to some ridiculous loud banging. What's going on, Jimmy? How was your week?
It's been good. Obviously enjoying the price rise and all the things that come with it. And, we've been waiting and it finally broke out. But we have an MRI top today. So what's going to happen to him?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to tell you guys, but not now, at the end of the show. Mechanic, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm feeling good. I'm enjoying it. We're all meeting down in Mexico in a couple of weeks. Looking forward to that conference a lot. Been talking with Goat, doing some research as well because my knowledge of history and economics is not so good, and I'm just realizing how much of a scam fiat currency is. I didn't even realize how bad it was. The more research I do, the more shocked I get.
Yeah. Oh, also, hey, if you want to go down another rabbit hole, I mean, there's like I hope you're a fast reader though. Back in the day, I haven't had time to read this blog in ages. But back in the day, before I got so busy doing podcasting and actually educating, I used to read Martin Armstrong's blog religiously. And I learned so much about monetary history, financial history, government overreach when it comes to economics. Probably one of the best, my favorite resources for the history of money and finance, like literally history, not like modern history. So if you want to go down that rabbit hole a little bit, check that out. All right, let's jump onto the show. And now we're going to try to stay away from the whole COVID insanity as the mask mandates are coming back, though some are trying to fight back, which is good. All right, screen share, and we are here. All right, let's, since we did do that Monero show not that long ago, let's troll them a little bit more. I even love the headline. So basically, a bug was found in the Monero algorithm. Look, bugs get found all the time, but even CoinDesk, look at this. This does not reveal anything about addresses or transaction amounts. This bug persists in the official wallet code today. Monero said. Like even CoinDesk, like can you imagine an article saying Bitcoin said? It's clearly a mistake by CoinDesk. Some human said it, but you can see how even the crypto publications are not treating Monero as a decentralized project. It is obvious that this is just a centralized project where Monero is an entity. As much as the Monero people like to say they are decentralized, the entire argument over why Monero will not succeed is because it is not decentralized. And their privacy is generally irrelevant because their product is not actually decentralized. The one last thing I want to say on bugs in the crypto space. Bugs can be discovered in any token, in any project, including Bitcoin. We had a big one just a few years ago that Matt Corallo was involved in. And after that bug was resolved fairly quickly, the price of Bitcoin really shot up. And what people have to realize is Bitcoin is stability. Bitcoin is security. When a bug gets fixed in Bitcoin, people trust Bitcoin more because it's now more secure. When a bug is discovered in a shitcoin, it does not help the confidence of Monero. I mean, this is where all shitcoins have a disadvantage, is that their bugs are bad, while in Bitcoin, it's a bit different. In Bitcoin, when a bug is fixed, it just means Bitcoin's more secure. It's this weird hypocrisy, but it definitely exists. Like every time some kind of a bug gets fixed in Bitcoin, I get more confident in Bitcoin. Every time a bug is discovered in a shitcoin, it just makes me laugh that it's totally insecure. Your thoughts on this? Let's go with Jimmy first.
Yeah, I mean the funny part about this is that the entire existence of Monero is based on having privacy and not being able to link UTXOs with the actual spending. But this bug basically makes it so that there is a good probability the output of the new transaction can be identified as the true transaction according to the tweet. So the way Monero works is that they choose like 5 random UTXOs and basically do something like a ring signature on it, so that you don't know which of those are being spent, but you know that the signature is good for one of them, and that's basically how it works. What it's saying is, because of the algorithm by which you choose those other UTXOs that aren't your own, you can, with good probability, like identify which one it is. So it kind of takes away the anonymous nature of Monero. So it takes out a large part of the reason why you'd use Monero in the first place. And it's apparently still in the software. They're not in any hurry to fix it because they don't think it's critical, because no one's actually losing money. It's just that you're losing anonymity to some degree if people can write something to trace it, basically. But this is kind of what happens with a lot of altcoins, is that the cryptography and stuff is hard. And the thing is, like, the Monero guys are actually pretty good coders. I've looked at their code. It's they're implementing some pretty complex cryptography, but you have to understand this is like an order of magnitude more complicated than Bitcoin is. And their transactions are gigantic for that reason. It's some pretty serious stuff. So when you have an order of magnitude more complexity, you're going to have an order of magnitude more bugs and things like that. And you're going to see things like this, and it's not going to give you the guarantees that Bitcoin can, because it's just more complicated. And you need to have a more centralized development team for that reason, because you need to fix stuff like this all the time. There was, of course, an inflation bug in Monero that wasn't taken advantage of, but like an inflation bug in Monero is like 1 billion times worse than one in Bitcoin, because like you have no idea how much was inflated or anything like that. With the Bitcoin one, it would have been very obvious, and probably we would have soft worked in the sense that miners would have built something else on top if some other miner took advantage of that bug. Probably wouldn't have happened with Monero, because it's like near like you have this level of complexity and so on. So yeah, like all the Monero fanboys that say, oh, it's private or whatever, you just kind of this story just kind of disproves your entire reason for existence. So yeah, good luck with that.
Well, I'm looking at the actual GitHub issue here, and it says that if the output was originally created in a block that has fewer than 100 outputs total, then the real output would be clearly identifiable in the ring. And for reference, the trailing yearly average is around 63 outputs per block. This is another one of the problems that come with, with how few people and how few transactions there actually are. I believe that exacerbates the problem somewhat here. I think if there were enough people using Monero, it would actually be making it a little bit better. But we all know that if everyone starts using Monero, then it breaks in another way. So yeah, that's my take on it.
All right, yeah, I just took a look at the price of Monero. Ironically, since the story broke, the price of Monero is rising against Bitcoin, but I will take credit on the MRI index calling the low perfectly on Monero versus Bitcoin. But also Bitcoin went up as well, right? So it kind of, Bitcoin, as Mechanic likes to say, from that quote of someone on a panel in Miami. Go ahead, quote it again.
If shitcoins do well, it's because Bitcoin didn't die yet. And if Bitcoin does well, it's in spite of shitcoins attempting to muddy the waters and create confusion.
Yep, perfectly true. All right, we are going to go ahead and move on to our U.S. senators and lawmakers in the United States. Senator Warren came out very upset at the shadowy supercoders because the government that wants to control the financial system is very scared about Bitcoin. I mean, the memes on this are getting out of control. Your general thoughts? I'm sure you guys have heard this entire story over and over and over again. Anything you'd like to say to Senator Warren? Mechanic, you're up.
Yeah, I took down a lot of notes for this one. Maybe it's not worth going so far into it, though. It's kind of triggering to me watching this stuff because they equate everything together in the umbrella term cryptocurrency. And they were kind of making a lot of valid points generally, not just Elizabeth Warren, but altogether saying a lot of these projects claim to be decentralized, but are they? And the general response was no, there's all these points of centralization within them, which is true, except for Bitcoin. But I mean, decentralization isn't a binary thing, right? It's just Bitcoin is vastly more decentralized than anything else. And their points there were misguided. But then, what's her name? Walsh, one of the women on the sort of experts who did, to her credit, know a lot of what she was talking about, but she just was a complete advocate for state control and regulation over everything, which was really painful to watch. She was saying, she was implying that she'd like to see developers and and miners be much more regulated, saying there's no, they're completely opaque. We need far more, tracking and reporting done by miners. We need, but her idea that saying developers are not on the hook for things that happen with their code is not a tenable situation, and we need to. That to me sounds.
I lost Mechanic's audio. Is it me?
I think it might be you.
It's me. Hold on.
Yeah, I'll continue anyway. The insinuation or the sort of the promise of. Are you back, Tom? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you, but
yeah,
I think Tone's still working on it.
Well, yeah, just seeing someone say, "Oh, devs need to be held responsible for this stuff." She pointed that out as an area of centralization, saying they have a lot of control, and we've demonstrated within Bitcoin that that's not true. In the rest of cryptocurrency, we haven't done that. But if Bitcoin devs do something that violates what the community wants as a whole, or at least in something that looks like consensus, which of course is difficult to measure, it doesn't happen. Like we've seen literally the most prominent dev in Bitcoin at the time, Gavin Andresen, tried to push an unwelcome change on Bitcoin and just get spat out of the community as a result. So to imply that devs have some form of centralization within cryptocurrency as a whole is accurate, but you have to make Bitcoin an exception. So she didn't want to do that, and she wants to use it as a justification for creating what to me would eventually look like a license to code, which just sounds so horrifically, it's horrifically awful and also totally unenforceable. So who cares? Half of the people contributing to Bitcoin Core are called pseudonyms like Santa Claus and stuff. I wouldn't worry about that. I mean, Satoshi was anonymous. We all know that. But then Elizabeth Warren herself, she sort of starts off by alluding to, oh, the financial system's bad and it's corrupt. We agree. We need something better. She sort of gives us that and then goes, but crypto is the worst trade-off ever. It's all done by these shadowy supercoders. And are they secure like they pretend to be? And Walsh responds, no, because exchanges and developers are forms of centralization, and exchanges get hacked. So that means cryptocurrencies aren't secure. I mean, that's ridiculous. And then Elizabeth Warren just keeps coming with the straw man. Like, is Bitcoin immune to absolutely everything? Can it be unhackable? Is it completely secure? And Walsh responds saying no, and it's a massive problem where it's so dangerous to use cryptocurrencies. The implication here being that on the flip side, there's she also she expands, Walsh expands to say that there's no legal finality with Bitcoin. And in theory, your Bitcoin transaction or crypto transaction can be reversed at any point in the future if there's a reorg on the blockchain. That's her point. But her sort of, this serves as a justification for the current system where apparently once your money's in your bank, it's yours forever, which is a ridiculous claim, which she is implicitly making there. Of course, you can't, if the money's in your bank, and the authorities decide you don't really have that money, they can freeze it. It's not like, oh, the money's in my bank. The fact that she says it's probabilistic whether your Bitcoins stay where you think they are after they've got included in a block. That's, yes, it's technically true, but it would take the design of the Bitcoin network means that you need so much energy. You have to outmine everyone else. You have to perform a 51% attack or maybe just a 33% attack. In order to do that means, yes, it's probabilistic, but not in any sense. You'd be disingenuous to imply that you couldn't trust a Bitcoin transaction that was a few blocks deep. That would be a very disingenuous thing to do, and that's what she did. So anyway, I found it to be a sort of hysterical thing that had a bunch of straw men in it, where Elizabeth Warren was basically saying, well, to this end, I've written a letter saying we need to regulate this stuff before it's too late. Think of the children. That was basically what I got from it.
All right, got my audio's working again. Yeah, so just a quick background. So my introduction to how I first heard about Elizabeth Warren, back in like 15 years ago, I watched this documentary. Let me pull it up here. It was called Maxed Out. Now, this is from 2006, I believe. Yeah, 2006. And she was not, I mean, she's a senator more recently. I'm not even sure if she was in public office or not. I mean, it has been
She wasn't. She was a professor at Harvard.
Right. And she actually did a pretty good job in this documentary. The documentary, I don't know if any of you guys saw it. It was basically about how Americans are living in debt. And, once they can no longer afford the minimum monthly payment, as the interest continues to pile on, a lot of bad things happen, including suicides and all this other stuff. It was a pretty good documentary for its time. I can't believe Bitcoin's been around this long, like 2 years later, like the white paper comes out, right? And then when she got into public office, I just remember her from this movie where she did a pretty good job. And now she's just a total, plague on pretty much anything financial. It's just so bad. I don't know what it is about these people. Once they get into public office, they become a disaster. And by the way, when I was looking up these stories, like, she still refers to herself as Native American. Has she not proven that she's not with that DNA test? Like what the hell?
Yeah. The funny thing about this woman is, well, it's kind of a sad commentary because she really does kind of, at least at that time, understood that like debt was a big problem. I don't think she really understands how the Federal Reserve works or anything like that. And that's kind of the problem, is that she's blaming it all on just rich people. And that's her thing. Oh, we're going to take a bunch of your wealth, and the reason why poor people are poor is because of rich people. No, the reason the poor people are poor is because of monetary policy and really terrible like Cantillon effects that come out of that and so on. The other thing about her is that she's a politician now, and this is sort of the Faustian bargain that you have to make as a politician, is that you end up compromising everything that you believe for power. You may remember that she ran for president on the Democratic primary, and she was expected to do well, and she had the backing of very powerful people like Hillary Clinton, but she didn't make it. But in order to get the backing of somebody like Hillary Clinton, what you need to do is basically give up all principles and just do whatever the party wants you to do. It turns out Joe Biden did that a little better than Elizabeth Warren, so she didn't get it. But she was angling there for a while to become Treasury Secretary or whatever. These are the sort of games that you have to play. And the other thing is she's not going to suffer any consequences for any of this stuff that she says because she comes from the state of Massachusetts. She, like she's very popular there and popular among her left base. So she's not going to get thrown out of office. So she's going to say the craziest stuff to get the attention that she craves. I don't even think she necessarily believes all of this stuff. It's just to get headlines and get people like us talking about her.
It is ridiculously crazy stuff. She wants a wealth tax. She actually, in this interview right here, I can play it, but it's on my Twitter. It's on Matt Odell's Twitter. She literally wants to tax your cash. Like inflation is not enough. She wants to tax your cash in addition to taxing, unrealized gains from anything, whether it's art, whether it's rare coins, whether it's basketball cards.
I mean, this is she has sort of like a wrong model of the world where she thinks it's rich people that are keeping poor people poor, or they're the ones that cause debt and stuff. No, it's the entire banking system and the fiat monetary system that does that. It isn't. It isn't rich people that are doing that. I mean, they're participating as part of the banking system and so on. But you want to fix a lot of this stuff. You need to fix the entire monetary system that we're under. And I think she's smart enough to understand that. But like as a politician, what she needs, what she feels she needs to do is play to her base, and that's essentially what she's doing.
All right, so we're going to stay with politics for 200. And of course, we get to look at our old co-host, Christine Lee, who's now at CoinDesk. So new infrastructure bill that apparently was written yesterday and gets voted on today, or got written over the weekend and got voted on yesterday. I'm not even sure anymore. Wants to tax the shit out of crypto because the government really needs the $30 billion because printing $8 trillion last year clearly is not enough, and 30 billion will fix the problem. So they want to literally tax Bitcoin for 30 billion, more than the amount of money that miners are actually making in profit, in order to fund something crazy that they clearly not going to use for any infrastructure. So your thoughts on this? I mean, it's just another money grab. Like it's amazing how the moment there is anything entrepreneurial, the government just wants to destroy it by taxing the shit out of it. Like how, I can't believe society has gotten this far under these mandates.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I think that to me, it just sounds like sort of hand wavy, it's almost like people are so resentful of the wealthy and they've had that sort of pumped into them so much, like what Jimmy's talking about with just this constant notion that if someone does well, it's at your expense, which is just so anti-American and it's just a punishment for any form of success. And so it feels like they're just sort of pandering to that mentality without any sort of technical interest in actually following through. Because reading the article, and I can't see anything in there that looks like anything unique. It just says like, oh, reporting, there's going to be more reporting, and on everything that's in there has to be pretty much done under current legislation anyway. It's not like if you're using Coinbase today or anything like that, they're not reporting everything you do to the IRS. Like they over comply voluntarily anyway. But then they go in to say like that we're going to expand this to include decentralized exchanges and things. Like, well, that's completely unenforceable. You're not going to get, how are you going to get BISC to start report? They're not. It's a decentralized platform. There's no one you can actually come down on legally there. Then they say they're going to ask for more information from miners. Any huge miner has been, KYC, AML up the ass for, a long time now anyway. And anyone that hasn't done that can remain not doing that because you're just using a bit of electricity in your home. It's, you just say you're growing cannabis because that's legal pretty much everywhere in America now anyway. So I don't, from what I can see is that as far as Bitcoin's concerned, none of this stuff is enforceable anyway. So who cares? And all of the regulated exchanges already do all this anyway. So it just changes nothing. I don't know where they think this money's going to come from, but I don't think that this is being done in a genuine capacity at all anyway. It just sounds to me like our political we just leverage people's resent of wealth. And here, a lot of people seem to be pissed off with crypto people making loads of money. So we'll just make a little nod to that without actually any real, without any teeth to the proposal, because the whole thing just.
Jimmy, want to add anything?
Yeah, I like this tax isn't going through. It's just like that. It's not going to happen because taxes, especially like, are extremely unpopular, especially among anyone with an R next to their name. And this is a new tax, and new taxes are very much not things that like Republicans will support. This is this happens in Congress quite often, where they propose a bill, and in order to sort of make the budget balance, because you're coming up against the debt ceiling and things like that, what you have to do is figure out ways to pay for it. And they come up with various ideas. Hey, where can we get $30 billion? You could deficit spend it, but then that gets closer and closer to the debt ceiling limit, and then you have to have a vote for that, and that's a political hot potato. So what they're doing is like just putting this in there for now, and then this is sort of like a point of leverage that they can use to take out the tax if you want some sort of like infrastructure spending bill. I suspect that the Republicans will probably like not negotiate on this, and it'll end up with some sort of like, this is essentially a play to get more pressure to raise the debt ceiling so that they can spend more money with impunity instead of having to collect taxes and so on. And this is the pressure that any sort of bill in Congress has, is you can continue deficit spending, you can tax, or you cannot spend. No one wants to tax, and everyone wants to spend. So what ultimately happens every single time is that the deficit spending goes up, which is essentially more money printing. This is the problem with fiat money, is that you always have this sort of release valve. Let's just do stealth taxation instead of explicit taxation. I guarantee this ain't going through. It's just an idea. It's a trial balloon, and it'll get a lot of press and things like that. After the blowback, they're not going to include it in other things again, unless it's specifically to get people like us to talk about it.
You're muted, bro.
Yep. All right. So let's change gears and get back to talking about Bitcoin. We didn't have time to cover this in our last stream, but Blockstream announces Greenlight Lightning Node service. I am still very new to Lightning. I'm gonna take my time, probably during Giacomo's workshop down in Mexico, and then over in Dubai, where we're gonna do some Lightning workshops to get myself onto speed. But you, Mechanic, and Jimmy, you guys are a little more well-versed. You really wanted to cover the story, Mechanic. So what do you got for us on this? Give us a big overview.
Yeah, it's Lightning as a service provided by Blockstream. It's obviously not as good as running a Lightning node yourself, because if it's run by a third party, it can be denied to you. And you know me, you know I work for Start9, you know I'm a self-hosted maximalist. So I'm not super keen on anyone not hosting their own stuff, though on a pragmatic level, it might be a good way to enter Lightning. Obviously, we like Blockstream. They're good contributors to the Bitcoin space, and this is done in a good capacity. So it looks like what will be happening is you still are the one in control of the private keys, so they can't you don't run the risk of having your funds stolen from you, but your ability to spend them is still somewhat dependent on Blockstream. So it's a sort of halfway house. There's all sorts of trade-offs made with Lightning wallets. This is the first time I've seen this one in particular. Lightning's difficult to use because it's not like Bitcoin. Obviously it sits on top of Bitcoin as a network, but there's a whole bunch of challenges that come with making Lightning user-friendly. and it hasn't been the easiest thing. And there's so many different approaches taken. I particularly like Moon Wallet's approach, where you don't have you're kind of on chain and off chain at the same time, and you don't really have to distinguish as a user. So it's super user friendly. If you receive some Bitcoin in a Moon wallet, you're kind of automatically on within a Lightning channel at the same time, and you can then pay a Lightning invoice, or you can just make a Bitcoin transaction, and it looks kind of the same. This is really good. And then you have Phoenix model as well, where they are the ones handling channels for you all the time. It's still non-custodial, but you pay a small percentage every time you make a transaction, and it's much more expensive than if you were using your own Lightning thing. And then you have a couple of others as well. I can't remember.
We have the Blue Wallet model, which is more custodial than I think all of them, right?
Yeah, Blue Wallet is, I think, I always confuse this with, it's not Breeze, it's Blue. I think Blue is, it's non-custodial for the Bitcoin part of the wallet. It's custodial for the Lightning part.
Yes.
Fair enough to them. It's not easy. And then there's another couple of very popular wallets that people have been using. So they all come with their own trade-offs and stuff. I'm using Bitcoin Lightning wallet at the moment on my Graphene or Android phone. But yeah, this
Claire was one of the first wallets. I'm assuming they're still around. Wallet of Satoshi is very popular.
Which one was the first one you said?
Eclair.
Yeah, Eclair was great. I started using that one. It's been a little bit, in my opinion, overtaken now. I believe it's its own implementation as well. So it's like an alternative to LND or C Lightning. It's I don't.
Basically, I'm gonna bring this over to Jimmy.
Yeah.
The amount of development in Lightning is insane. I'm on Clubhouse now. I'm talking a lot to the PlebNet group. They're like they're on pace to be the biggest like Lightning hub with connections. And man, the amount of people joining the Lightning network is about to literally explode exponentially. There will be tens of thousands of Bitcoin locked into the Lightning network, and and yet there are people that are still demonizing the hell out of it as if it's 3 years ago. Crazy, right, Jimmy?
Yeah, it is kind of going exponential. If you read like Ryan Gentry's Lightning Labs newsletter, he was pointing out that we went from like 1,200 to 1,300. It took like 45 days or something in network capacity. 1,300 to 1,400. It took much less, and to the point where it went from like 1,900 to 2,000 in like a few days. So it's increasing very, very quickly, and for good reason. There's a lot of good, interesting services that are running on Lightning right now. You have the podcast index stuff where if you're a podcaster, you link a Lightning wallet to it, and if you go to the Breeze app, you can go listen to certain podcasts and pay the creator like some number of sats per minute that you listen. I've certainly received some sats that way, and it's really cool. It's a direct monetization model rather than the ad supported model that's so prominent on the internet. There's also Sphinx Chat, which is really cool. Has certain like Sybil resistant features, like the ability to force people to stake in order to comment in your group. And if the admins think that your comment was worthless or spammy or something like that, they can keep it. Otherwise, you receive it back 8 hours later. One of the nice things about this Greenlight stuff is that it's essentially being like kind of like an AWS, where you can run this service on someone else's computer and get a lot of the updates and things that you need. And some of the work that's going around it is being able to host, a Sphinx chat room and things like that using this. So for me, Lightning is really becoming sort of like this Web 3.0 thing that's actually decentralized, where people are willing to serve up content instead of having everything in one place in some central repository and everybody going in and getting what they need. But at the same time being very vulnerable to censorship and much more through these walled gardens that control everything. Instead, you have an actual decentralized network where data is all over the place, and you ask the right server, which would be a Lightning node, hey, can you give me this and I'll pay you for it, and so on. That's much more the model that I think we want to go towards, because it's a lot harder to shut down, and it isn't as susceptible to political manipulation and things. So yeah, I'm very bullish on this idea, and I think it'll come to pass. And you know, we're seeing sort of the infrastructure being built out as we speak. You know, kind of like the roads equivalent, and it's really cool.
Yeah, and I think it's doing wonders for just Tor. I used the Tor browser the other day. It's definitely a lot faster than it was a few years ago. I think I'll I honestly think there's going to be more development going on in Tor, and it has been, because a lot of these Lightning nodes do connect through Tor.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes.
That wouldn't automatically make them relays, though, would it? My understanding of Tor is not great.
Yeah, I haven't looked into how it works or whatever, but Tone would have to tell you.
Yeah, no, Tone's not the one to tell you, but yeah, we that's the thing, man. Like a lot of us old school guys, like, I don't know, I just haven't really gotten on board with Lightning yet. It's hard to like change your ways the older you get, you know.
No, I mean, you just need to go to more conferences where you're selling your shit, and then like people want to pay you.
Most of my conferences is me attending shitcoin conferences, trying to, like, you know, save people from insanity.
That's your problem then. You're fighting a battle from 2017.
No, you're fighting a battle way older than that, in my opinion. You might as well stand outside a casino and tell people the house always wins. It's just a waste of time.
It's definitely true. All right, guys, let's talk about hodling a little bit, and we're gonna talk about right before we talk about price. So, of course, Elon Musk and Tesla did not sell any of their Bitcoin, and right after this earnings announcement, Bitcoin definitely, you know, shot up a little bit. A lot of people thought that Tesla might sell. They did not. Also, just before the show, I tweeted it out. I'm not going to play it because then my audio gets all messed up. But right here, and Documenting Bitcoin tweeted out a short interview with Cynthia Loomis of Wyoming. And she said that she owns Bitcoin as her retirement play, basically. And she's a big hodler. We all knew that. But it's always nice to have her say it on national television. So hodling is definitely popular, while at the same time, Binance and FTX, which are potentially under some regulatory scrutiny, the two exchanges, both with a shitcoin, which is why I'm not a fan of either of the exchanges, they have removed their 100x leverage and are now making their max leverage only 20x, which is still somewhat insane. General thoughts on this before we look at the mempool, which is empty, and then talk about the price.
Yeah, the high leverage stuff like was wrecking absolutely everybody. I saw some statistics from BitMEX a while back. Something like 80% of the traders were using max leverage, which on that platform was 100x. And you know, I mean, they like, you're constantly getting wrecked. It adds to the volatility. This is why we get like sudden drops and things like that. Not to say that's bad necessarily, but it is partly why Bitcoin is just so volatile. I think 20x is still too much, but I don't know. I'm not a trader, so you tell me, Tone.
20x is still quite a bit. But yeah, like as a free market guy, like I don't really care that there's 100x leverage there. No one is forcing you to use it, right? So like I never had a problem with 100x, 1000x, you know, whatever, you know, like no one's forcing you to use it. No one is forcing you to walk into a casino. This is why I never had a problem with leverage and derivative exchanges. Like no one is forcing you to use those. Mechanic, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in favor of regulation for people's own good. Like COVID made me realize I'm not even happy being told I got to wear a seatbelt. It's my decision. It's not your decision. It's just the worst path you can go down, to be told by someone else to do something for your own good, unless they're literally your parents or someone you have a reason to, to believe that they have some sort of interest in your long-term future. So I'm not interested in stuff being illegal for my own good. I'm really not. It's up to me to learn what to do, learn what's best for my own self. Like, I don't. It's just so ignorant to think that the government will save you financially from yourself by banning leverage or leverage above a certain level. It's not appropriate for them to do that. It's treating us all like children. I can't stand it. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, actually. All right. Also, forgot to mention, speaking of Lightning, Christian Decker, where is he? Right there, from the Lightning team on Blockstream side, is planning to be in Dubai for the Understanding Bitcoin conference. Tickets should go on sale next week. That's our plan to get this conference going in Dubai. Also, all three of us will be at the Bitcoin Standard Conference down in Ensenada, Mexico. Jimmy and Giacomo are teaching their workshops right before the conference. I will be there. I already got my flight. Actually, I'm heading over to LA. There are no flights from the United States or Canada into Tijuana. They do not exist. I have looked, I have searched, they don't exist. So the best way to get there is apparently by driving over the border from San Diego or California. But all three of us will be at the event, and it looks like a lot of fun. Of course, I also have the Financial Summit coming up in Dubai as well, right after Understanding Bitcoin. And looking at my calendar, I will also be at BitBlock Boom along with Jimmy Song, because he can just drive over there. I don't know if you're going to make it there, Mechanic. Are you? Probably not.
BitBlock Boom?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I left that one too late, and they're completely sold out. And I also
they're actually not sold out. They're back. It's not cheap. It's like a $700 ticket. But I just spoke to Gary, and they decided to remove the round tables, and there are tickets available for registration. I probably shouldn't have said that with 500 people watching. So you may have to beat them to it, but it is back up for sale right now.
I think some Start9 guys are attending it already.
So yeah, they're probably sponsoring.
I really do want to go. So I'll see. Maybe I can work it into my plan, but I've got so much on my plate at the moment.
Yeah.
One thing we might want to cover is this IMF threatening El Salvador story that came out.
Oh, yesterday. Yeah. I didn't get to that. Yeah, I said this. I'm going to say Tone was right on this one. We were arguing over this. And like I said, this by adopting Bitcoin as legal tender, Salvador is on a path to eliminate the US dollar as legal tender, because between the combination of them potentially wanting to do it and the IMF, World Bank, United States will force them to do it. And by force, I mean coerce, kind of like the way we're being coerced into vaccines, where, well, you don't have to take a vaccine, but you'll have no job. Your kids won't be able to go to school. You won't be able to travel out of the country. Eventually, you won't be able to travel across state borders or even out of your, neighborhood of 300 people. So it's not force, but it's force. And I see that. I don't see how the U.S. dollar will be an additional legal tender in El Salvador within 3 years. And they will probably have their own El Salvador currency alongside Bitcoin. That was my argument with you guys a month ago. Yeah,
well, I'm not sure I would really argue against it. I'm not sure I take the opposite position there. It seems like I haven't read this article, but it seems like there's some pretty nasty stuff being said by the IMF to El Salvador, and it's thinly veiled threats. So the thing is, I don't know if they can leave the US dollar as, just on a technical level, Tom, can't they just leave the US dollar as legal tender forever, even if no one uses it? It sucks in comparison to, in comparison to Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin's a superior money in every way. So why would they ever need to officially remove it?
That's true. I mean, they can kind of do whatever they want, but the government, the global elites will make it so difficult for them.
Well, they're going to do that, and they are doing that. Maybe I'll skim this article quickly while you do price or something and see if there's anything in there that
yeah, we can jump back on it. Jimmy, let's talk programming Bitcoin.
Sure. I am doing the Programming Bitcoin seminar next in Ensenada, Mexico for the Bitcoin Standard conference, which is going to be awesome. We're all going to be there. But I am going to be running it August 10th and 11th. I am looking to do it again in London, October 9th and 10th, somewhere around there.
You add that to your website?
Yeah, I'm going to add it pretty soon. I have to finalize the venue and stuff. And also in Atlanta in November. So those will be the ones after. This one is in Mexico. If you want to learn Bitcoin programming from me, that's how you would do it. And of course, I have 3 books, Programming Bitcoin, The Little Bitcoin Book, and Thank God for Bitcoin, which are all available on Amazon. So yeah, go check them out.
Yep, and those books are right here on Jimmy's website. I'm trying to get that picture of Jimmy as the Korean admiral. We don't have him on this website yet, but I'm still trying to convince him to find his way over to Dubai after the London event. But
that picture, it looked pretty awesome.
I know. I got it. Willie Woo's picture is great too. I am going to be reaching out to more speakers. It's going to be a fun event. Okay. Let's move on to price and take a look what's going on. Here's the weekly chart of Bitcoin. We are holding the $40,000 area. The weekly chart is not that interesting, but the daily chart is certainly interesting. We are on an MRI top, as Jimmy mentioned earlier in the show, and we had a beautiful MRI reversal right here. It came at a very weird area where a bit of a double bottom kind of scenario. I personally was only looking for a 1 to 4 candle upswing and anticipating a potential rejection of the 50 period moving average and creating a new low. But this is why I always say it's a buying opportunity off the MRI unless it isn't when it happens near the lows. This MRI buy did not happen at the lows. The low clearly came several days earlier. But this was a reasonable MRI buy opportunity, and it kept going right into an MRI sell. So the exact same thing I expected here, I'm now expecting here, but in reverse. So I am now expecting a 1 to 4 day correction starting with today. That's why you see this down arrow. And my worst case scenario on this correction at the moment is down to the $35,000 range before more upside. This would also give us a chance to separate from the 128, this will also give a chance for the 128-day moving average to separate from the 200-day moving average, making it easier to break these things individually than combined. So keep that in mind as well. I'm looking at the live chat. I got a comment. People say Tone never mentions ivermectin. I talk enough shit about COVID. I can't talk about all of it because I can do that for 24/7. But yeah, it's not a conspiracy. It's just coincidence that I haven't mentioned it. But yes, it's definitely potentially your best bet for COVID. Now, back to the price chart. So I am looking for a pullback here. If I had taken on a speculative long trade off the MRI buy, I would certainly be taking my profits now. you can always get back into the market. At this point, I would wait 1 or 2 candles. I would wait for the break of the highs of the last 48 hours, and then I would be comfortable getting back in. Now, the next level of resistance is here in the $44,000 range. I really thought we can make it to the $44,000 range once we broke the 50-period moving average, and we would have, flown all the way up. That didn't happen. But I like this slowdown. I would be cautious here as a short-term trader. Take the profit, wait. You can always go back in. If you missed your buy the dip opportunity, I would stay patient. I would wait for the 1 to 4 candle pullback, pray that it's a pullback all the way back to 35,000, and then be able to buy this dip. I am now given it a less than 20% chance that we will go sub 30,000. And if we do only pull back to 35K and then break the $40,000 area, I will lower the probability that we go below 30,000 to something like 5%. Yes, I am that confident that the sub $30,000 price will not happen ever again unless Bitcoin dies. All right, that is pretty much it. The short-term charts are not that interesting. I want to mention gold. So on yesterday's show at exactly 10:15 New York time, because I went back and looked at the timestamps and when it happened, right here, I even texted my friends during the live stream yesterday, hey, keep an eye on gold. And I looked back at the video and the timestamp of where that happened. And that actually took place when the price of gold was right here at the bottom, like below 1,800. And look what happens today. Today we rally hard. So that is great to see. We never actually hit the MRI buy because of this gap. Now this gap also kind of has to do with probably the futures market rolling over, but it's still a huge move in the price of Bitcoin. You'll also see it in GBTC, the tradable version. Just like the MRI called a beautiful top here, it definitely called a beautiful bottom right there. Oil, I've been bullish on oil a little bit. I'm back to being bullish on oil on a daily chart. But another MRI top's coming because of the monthly MRI. May take oil another few weeks to kind of consolidate before a breakout. I am bullish on oil. I am very bullish the S&P 500. I don't see why anyone would take on any short trades right now in the stock market. I've been bullish the S&P 500. And today we're at a new all-time high. Nothing more to say on that. All right, guys. We got the show done in 1 hour. Mechanic, you want to pull anything up on the IMF El Salvador story?
No, it's just the same old, oh, you're not going to be able to control things. You won't be able to set this rate. You won't be able to. I mean, they're just.
That's the point, right? I mean, what, man, Bitcoin is really, it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a real battle because those that want to rule you and control you can't seem to give up any control. And I don't want to go down the conspiracy road, but it's, if they can't control the money, they're going to control our health. So that's the future.
Well, it's worse, right? Because the fear tactics they use with money, with people having freedom when it comes to their money is, oh, terrorists will use it. And people are a little bit scared of that, maybe. That worked for a while. And, 9/11 managed to justify a whole bunch of egregious stuff. But people don't really seem to care that much about their privacy anyway. So I think they'd have been able to get away with that. People don't seem to care that much about war either, which is why the Iraq war being done off the back of 9/11, no one really asked too many questions about that. But health, if you tell people there's a bad cold going around, that will really make people go, that's it. Take my house, take my car, take my daughter. Like, it seems to be like, once you scare people a little bit with invisible viruses, that's it. That's enough. People will go, it's a very small percentage of people that will go, that's it. I don't care if I die. I need my freedom.
It's funny that you said that. It's exactly what COVID is. It's a bad cold because like coronaviruses is the medical term for a cold. I'm holding a textbook in my hand. Actually, it wasn't in this one. that I used to teach college kids health, high school students health, because I was a high school health teacher at one point, and a long time ago. And literally, if you look at old textbooks, colds are referred to as corona, which is, that's all this is. It's a bad cold that will potentially kill you if you're in bad health or you're old.
Yeah, I've had some colds that wiped me out for over a week, and I'm a young, healthy man. So if you're 80 years old and you've got health conditions, a bad cold is bad news, man. But the idea that you can wipe it out by locking everyone down and turning Australia into a prison is not, it's not a sensible or credible idea. It's just complete insanity. It's completely insane.
Yeah. And the whole terrorist angle, like I just saw an article, I couldn't find it, and it was talking about how, it was like another Bitcoin address has been blacklisted because it was linked to terrorist activity. And in the picture, it's like two shadowy figures holding cell phones. And it's like, yes, but terrorists also use cell phones. Why are we not banning those?
Yeah, and balaclavas too. We need to ban balaclavas and crowbars so that those hackers, you know, like every newspaper article about hackers, it's a guy with a crowbar in a laptop. I don't know if, do you call them crowbars in the States?
Yeah, you call them crowbars, yeah.
Right. Every tool has some different name in England, I find.
Yeah, so here, I did this like Twitter thread. Man, this is going to turn into a whole COVID thing, but at least we're doing it at the end of the show. And like the entire COVID problem, I put it to this, and it seems like it should be, okay, where, do I really tweet this much? Jeez. It's all about COVID now, too. So, well, besides the fact that the World Health Organization has changed the definition of herd immunity, they removed natural immunity from the definition of herd immunity. According to the World Health Organization, the only way to get herd immunity is through a vaccine. There is no other means. Did you know that?
Yeah, I saw the memory hole, the old definition of.
Yeah.
They
going back to 1984. It's basically, it's this chart. It's this exponential risk of a COVID death. It's exponential with age, and it's exponential with other health conditions. So when the older you are and the more additional like cardiovascular problems, diabetes problems, like this makes it that, like the reason why, and it's also, you know, males versus females, but the reason why there is this risk of a COVID death for males and females is because it's 99% these, like 50 and above, plus other conditions. If you have no conditions and you are young, this is like zero. And people just can't comprehend the exponential risk of COVID with health conditions plus age. And it is just baffling me how people are clueless about basic math or basic common sense.
Yeah, me too, bro.
It's not cluelessness. It's fear, because they don't want to be socially ostracized, and you know, that's, thankfully we're in a community that doesn't care about that part. But like if you're in like polite society and you say stuff like that, you get completely like, you know, destroyed. Basically, your social life gets destroyed. So that's why.
Yeah, there you go, mechanic.
Thanks, man. I love that.
The Constitution clearly doesn't need to apply if there's a bad cold going around.
I also like the NPC with like 8 needles in it and a mask on saying, "Govern me harder, daddy." That's a favorite of mine.
Yeah,
right.
Health and safety have always been the justifications to take away our rights. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, and it's just too nuanced to explain to people that your immune system has a chance against COVID. It doesn't have a chance. Your life doesn't have a chance against an authoritarian regime, and once you give them an inch, they will take a mile.
Right. You're also your natural, like and here's the dilemma, right? Like, man, it's hard to explain a lot of these concepts to people. Here's the dilemma. your body, if you're healthy, does have its own natural immune system. If you take the injection, you are removing that ability from your body to potentially do that, right? So you actually do open yourself up to other variants. So you're potentially making your body less healthy with that vaccine for the common cold, which has been proven not to be able to, you can't fight that with a vaccine. Otherwise, we would have had one 100 years ago. And the issue in trying to make people understand that is, if these vaccines are potentially dangerous, and we're seeing now more people with the vaccine are catching COVID, people are dying from COVID with the vaccine. I believe it's possible that this vaccine like hurts humanity versus helps. Just my opinion. I don't have any science behind it. I haven't looked enough into it. But I also believe that the human body has maybe a chance to fight this vaccine, but I'm not sure, right? So if this experimental jab is dangerous for humans, I'm hoping that, life still finds a way and keeps, that doesn't wipe us out or turns us into like zombies. But yeah, like I believe that if you take that jab, the rest of your life you will be less healthy. Like you'll open up your body to more diseases that will require more jabs, that will open you up to more diseases that will require more jabs.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff's crazy to me. I just had a baby. I was mocked anti-vaxxers for my entire life, but now, I mean, I'm not going to go into too much detail there, but like, I'm very glad that my child is not going to be a test subject for these, especially when it comes to a vaccination for a disease that, I mean, first off, it's not a vaccine. It just isn't. It doesn't fit any of the definitions of vaccination. It's some sort of therapy, or it's a therapeutic of some sorts. But I mean, I should stop talking about it because I'm not a doctor. But at the same time, I have to say, I've just lost so much respect for the medical establishment.
Oh, I have none. Yeah. Like I'll let a doctor take an X-ray, and then I might let him give an opinion, and then I'm gonna go cross-check it myself. I have literally almost no respect for any doctors anymore. Yeah. Like unless I'm bleeding, I don't want your fucking opinion anymore.
I don't know, man. There are doctors that will prescribe to you like ivermectin and hydrochloroquine. So to me, like those are the good guys. And there's functional medicine doctors that can help you figure out what bacteria is in your gut and like which ones are healthy. The ones that actually tell you stop eating sugar and injecting all sorts of crappy drugs into your body. Instead, they try to help you live a life that's like actually not dependent on pharmaceuticals. So I think there are good ones out there. You just have to find the right one.
We're seeing a purge though in all institutions, not just medicine. If you're forcing people to get the vaccine in the police, in the army, they go straight for doctors anyway. We've been kind of asleep at the wheel on that one. They've been making healthcare workers take flu shots for years against their will. And no one's really paid that much attention to that. And now I know how that feels. But everything else, like taxi drivers, teachers, just every institution is,
Well, I mean, essentially, if you're a rent seeker in any government bureaucracy, you're going to be forced to do this because they know you're going to be compliant and obedient. But there's some people that are going to resist, and we'll see what happens.
I've turned down so many flu shots over my lifetime. I've never taken a single flu shot. I've never had the flu. And all I ever hear is everyone that's taking the flu shot getting the flu.
They're not useful. I'm sorry, they're just not. Like, and from what I gather, the patent ability of these mRNA vaccines is so much more profitable. Because you can, just the way the laws have been constructed, you can just make so much more money with minor tweaks. And it sort of patches a bug in the current big pharma business model where stuff like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and all these things can exist and have the patents expire and no one makes any money out of them anymore. With mRNA vaccines, apparently you can just keep on just making money out without doing, it's sort of like ASIC boost for for patent law. You know,
Oh, it's way more powerful than ASIC boost. But yeah.
Yeah, no, we can talk shit about this whole insanity. Like for a while. No, there's an article out of New Zealand, right? Because New Zealand really locked down. And there's articles how all these kids, all these little kids, babies, not babies, but like somewhere like 3 to 5 year olds, they're coming down with all these diseases because they've been, you know, in the house in a bubble, basically. And now their immune system, as they were growing up as babies, did not get to adjust to any like pathogens. And now they're grossly unhealthy because of the bubble they were put into. I tweeted that one out as well.
Yeah,
so
it's resistance training.
It's bad.
If you hurt your, you know, if you hurt your back lifting something too heavy, and your response is, I'm never going to lift anything ever again, that's not healthy. So, you know, you need to come into contact with stuff to orient your immune system properly. Otherwise, you get all these weird modern ailments that we have because we're just, I mean, I see people just spraying everything. I see people that practically want to spray their food at the restaurant with hand sanitizer. Like I've seen, like I definitely see people at coffee drive-thrus spraying the whole cup like with hand sanitizer. I've definitely seen that, which is, can you imagine drinking hand sanitizing, tasting coffee? Like, ugh.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's like 1% of all, less than 1% of all government politicians, well, they're all government politicians, are speaking out against these crazy restrictions. It's really, really sad.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna have to get going here. Let's see if my YouTube channel gets banned, and maybe I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Sorry about that, man.
Bye, guys.